Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, I am going to discuss MDGs and SDGs. First, I would start with the Millennium Development Goals. 189 members countries of the United Nations adopted 8 Millennium Development Goals in September 2000, and they committed themselves to eradicate extreme forms of deprivation by 2015. These goals aimed at reducing poverty, improving accessibility to educational and health facilities, and reducing gender inequality and empowering women. These goals represented one of the most substantive international effort and commitment to improve the living standards of the poor people. However, MDGs have been criticized on various grounds and they have not been substantially achieved by majority of the world countries. The first reason was that many critics argued that the goals and targets were not ambitious enough. It merely represented the past rates of improvement that were witnessed in the 1980s and 90s. Secondly, goals were not prioritized. For example, reducing hunger is likely to improve health status and educational attainment. Thus, the goal of reducing hunger should be given high priority. Thirdly, classifying classifying people living on less than $1 a day as extremely poor is quite arbitrary, and many economists don't accept this definition as those living below poverty line. So, despite all these criticisms, MDGs do represent an ambitious and sensible effort by world community to fight poverty and achievement of these goals, and it is going to significantly improving the living standards of people. But these goals were not achieved by majority of the world countries, and one of the reasons of the failure of Millennium Development Goals was that although the developed countries had committed to provide funds to the developing countries for meeting these goals, however, they didn't provide the required funds to the less developed countries. So, these Millennium Development Goals couldn't be achieved as aimed. So, this was not a complete success story. So, therefore, after the Millennium Development Goals, the idea of sustainable development goals came into the surface. So, as I mentioned earlier, there is a question: what have been the achievements so far? No substantial achievement, and the performance seems to be mixed. Some countries, for example, India and China, had done and are doing very well, but many countries in Asia and Africa have mixed results. Some have achieved some of the goals and some have not achieved these goals at all. So it seems that many countries have missed their targets in the areas of maternal health, sanitation, poverty reduction, child mortality, and environment. So there are a number of reasons for lack of adequate progress in such areas. That is, lack of political will, lack of resources such as hospitals, trained staff, corruption, which is one of the major problems of the less developed countries, and bad governance, similarly lack of information and commitment. And here these are the various goals. Number one is to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Targets are given on the right hand side. The second Millennium Development Goal was to achieve universal primary education. Number 3, promote gender equality and empower women. Number 4, reduce child mortality. Number 5, improve maternal health. Number 6, combat HIV, AIDS, malaria and other diseases. And number 7, to ensure environmental sustainability. And the last goal among the Millennium Development Goals was to develop a global partnership for development. And it was under this goal that the developed world, that is countries in the West, USA, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, these people had committed to provide funds to the developing countries. However, they didn't provide sufficient fund, and so a majority of the Millennium Development Goals couldn't be achieved. Let us now discuss Sustainable Development Goals, which are abbreviated as SDGs. Goal number 1 was no poverty, and it meant to end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 1 would end extreme poverty globally by 2030. So this is the target. Goal number 2 under Sustainable Development Goals is no hunger or zero hunger. And under this Sustainable Development Goal, the aim is to end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Goal number 3 is good health and well-being. And under this SDG, the idea is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Goal number 4 is quality education, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Goal number 5 under SDGs is gender equality, and that is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Goal number 6, clean water and sanitation, to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Affordable and clean energy is SDG number 7, and it is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. Sustainable Development Goal number 8 is decent work and economic growth with a view to promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. SDG number 9 is industry, innovation and infrastructure with the aim to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. Reduced inequality was SDG number 10, to reduce income inequality within and among countries. Important indicators of this SDG are income disparities, aspects of gender and disability, as well as policies for migration and mobility of people. SDG number 11 is sustainable cities and communities, with an aim to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. Goal number 12 under SDGs is responsible consumption and production, to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. 13. Climate action. Sustainable Development Goal number 13 is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts by regulating emissions and promoting developments in renewable energy. 14. Life below water. Sustainable Development Goal number 14 is aimed to conserve and sustainably use oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. As I mentioned earlier, goal number 14 is conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. 15. Life on land. This is sustainable development goal number 15, to protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. 16. Peace, justice, and strong institutions, with the aim to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, to provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Goal number 17, and that is partnership for the goals. The aim is to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. What are the cross-cutting issues? To achieve sustainable development, three aspects or dimensions need to come together, and those dimensions include economic, social, and environmental dimensions, which are all critically important and interdependent. Progress will require multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary research across all three sectors. This will prove difficult when major governments fail to support it. Sustainable development can enhance sectoral integration and social inclusion. According to the UN, the target is to reach the community farthest behind. Commitments should be transformed into effective actions requiring a correct perception of target populations. Data and information must address all vulnerable groups such as children, elderly folks, persons with disabilities, refugees, indigenous peoples, migrants, and internally displaced persons. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't yet subscribed this channel, kindly do subscribe and click on the bell icon so that you could get timely notification about my other videos.